Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to First Leader Call, and with us, boxing leader from England, Adam Haniver. Adam, how are you?
I'm very well. How are you, Danielle? You well?
I'm good, and my English is not so good, but I'm good, and my skills are okay. So we're gonna make this very good. For start, can you tell us something more about yourself and your everything what you do for boxing?
Okay, great. So yeah, Adam Haniver. I live down in Eastbourne now, which is on the south coast of England. Grew up in Cambridge. Came down here in 1997 to do a degree in sport and exercise science at the University of Brighton. Started boxing late at 18. One of my friends here was a high-level boxer, and he was boxing for Scotland. And I just wanted to try it, and instantly fell in love with boxing. Instantly fell
Yes.
in love with boxing. How difficult it was, and how much you had to rely on yourself rather than other people. Because I used to play football, and you relied on other people, but this was all about relying on yourself. And I loved it straight away. We started up the University of Brighton Boxing Club, which was just a few students. Then it became bigger and bigger. Started training hard, then started competing for the university, and then eventually started competing for Hastings. And to cut a long story short, I was coaching and competing at the same time. I had 45 amateur fights. I was very, very average as a boxer. I won half, I lost half, but I enjoyed the journey. And as I came towards the end of it, I realized I was a better coach than I was a boxer, and decided to jump in with both feet as a boxer. I now work for England Boxing, running something called the DICE course, which is Diploma in Sporting Excellence. So I take 16 to 18-year-old boxers in the area around Brighton and the south of England, and I give them an education around sports science. So I teach them psychology, biomechanics, physiology, obviously the technical and tactical and physical all around boxing. So they train with me and I teach them that. And my job is to try and get them as good a boxer as they possibly can and try and get them onto boxing for England. But also at the same time, they get an education. So they get a level 3 education. So it's education, it's boxing together that makes DICE. If people aren't too bored already, I also was a England talent national pathway coach for around about 7 or 8 years. And then me and my wife had 2 kids, and I needed to kind of stop that because
We
a
have
lot
a
of it
same
was up
story
north.
because
It's travel.
yeah, I understand that.
Yeah,
We have same
long
story
story.
because
Very long story.
yeah,
And then
we
in
have same story because I start like coach and
Mhm.
fighter too in same time, and that is very hard to do. Just
Mhm.
very hard.
But at
And
the same time, though, I think it's useful because you get a
yes,
bit more of a deeper understanding of why you're doing something, not just what are you doing, it's why you're doing it. So when you're a coach, I think you learn the why quicker. So I think it
yeah,
helped in some respects.
yeah, probably. And
Absolutely. I
another
also I
question.
also run esports. Go ahead.
Okay, another question I want to ask you. Where did you grow, and did that affect you what become today?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, I grew up in Cambridge, which is a nice city, very nice city, small village outside. Like I said, I was mainly a football player before, but then I came to university and started boxing. Um, I think it did. I think a lot of people from Cambridge. I think a lot of people are academically inclined. They like to learn, um, and I kind of brought that with me to when I went to university. That want to learn. Because I realised that there was so much more out there to learn. So when I did my sports science degree, I thought, um, keep learning because I want to do a career in sport. So sports science for me was perfect because it taught me all the nuts and the bolts about sport. And I'm very lucky because I suppose I'm one of the few people that when they do a sports science degree are able to take that degree and put it into their profession. Some people don't go into sport as a profession, but I did. So I find
Yeah,
myself very, very lucky in that respect. So I think it gave me a background for wanting to learn and become a learner for life.
that's nice. And every coach need a coach, and now you're educator for coaches. But and start how you start your boxing career, coaching career.
So yeah, started it at the university, and we were just running a kind of recreational club. We started getting a few boxers to compete for the university, and then what happened was I got a little bit fed up that all the students would come to university, they'd be there for 3 years, they'd graduate, and then go home, go back to
Yeah,
London or wherever they're from in England. And so there was you couldn't see the progress after 3 years. So I started Eastbourne Boxing Club because I wanted to see boxers grow and develop over the years. So that opened around about, I think, 12 years ago. We opened that 11 or 12 years ago. And from there, right at the start, I did my level 1. Then I went on to my level 2 in England. Then eventually I did my level 3 in England. And as I was a level 3 coach, I then applied with England Boxing to be a coach educator. So to
nice.
deliver level 1s and level 2s, although I do only just deliver level 1s at the moment because I've got my 2 children and there's a lot of travel and a lot of time. So a level 1 in England takes 4 days. So you have like a Saturday, Sunday, and then the following Saturday and Sunday. So that takes a lot. That's 2 weekends of a month. And I really enjoyed coach education. That was I probably even enjoy it a little bit more than coaching in some respects. I think it's a slightly different skill, Daniel. It's ever so
Yeah,
slightly different. And that taught me a lot about how to relate to people, how to reach people on the courses that were a little bit hard to reach, or they were ex-professional boxers who maybe think they know everything. And it's kind of getting people to realize we don't know everything. In fact, we all know 0.1% of everything there is to know about boxing. So
yes,
trying to shift that mindset into, you know what, there's a lot to learn here, and we're never going to get anywhere near to learning it all, but let's enjoy
yeah,
that journey of learning as much as we can. So that's
yes.
kind of where I am now with things, and it's just about that moving forward, trying to learn as much as I can, but then trying to apply it when I'm coaching and seeing if it works, seeing if it doesn't work. And I think that's what all coaches do. They should be trying different things all the time, seeing if it works, seeing if it doesn't. So that's kind of where I am at the moment, Daniel.
And what inspired you the most to become a coach?
I've always
It's
been fascinated in learning,
yeah,
absolutely fascinated in learning, not just what, but why. Why do I do this? Why do I need to do that? I think, I don't know if it's the same in Serbia, but I think in England and probably the rest of the world, there's a lot of the coach says this, so the boxer does that, and that's it. Coach says this,
yeah,
boxer does. And for me, when I was a boxer, I just kind of found that I want to be involved in that process. I want a deeper understanding as to why I need to do this, or what would I do if I tried something different. And it just made me think, um, can we do it a little bit different than what we're currently doing? And I think boxing sometimes might be stuck in the past. And can we bring it into the future, involve the boxers a little bit more? I think there are cultural restraints to that. So I think in England, for example, England's quite, what's the word, progressive in terms of they like to they like to ask their athlete, they like to ask their boxer what they think, they like to involve the boxer in the process. Maybe there's some countries out there that are a little bit like coach says, boxer does, and that's it. And
yeah. And I think
there may
that is yeah, that is big problem because we give answer before they get how you say it problem.
Mhm.
and
Absolutely.
and when we find out about ecological dynamic and the construct lead approach, everybody, everything we learned before goes down,
Hmm.
and it's
Completely.
tough for coaches.
It blew my head.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where when you first learn about ecological dynamics, it was the Matrix for me. I don't know if you've seen the film The Matrix.
yeah,
It
me
was
too.
the here's the blue pill here, and I went, wow, this has exactly been my problem when I was a boxer. This was my problem in terms of learning, and suddenly I understood this should be the best. This there is a better way to do this. Now, I don't. Sometimes I think you can teach a boxer and just say, "Do this, do this, do this," and he'll be successful. But I think that's a very small percentage of boxers. Very small percentage of boxers can do that. But for
Uh,
everyone else, I think the ability to actually understand why, not just what or how, why and when, often are very important things. And if they're not in a scenario which is real, such as one partner and another partner together, then you don't get the why and the when. So when you're hitting a bag, you don't really get the why and the when. When you're with an opponent, you do get the why and the when. And I think coaches are very so scared of um, coupling people up because they it's just sparring, couple. Let's do 3 rounds, done. 6 minutes, 8 minutes, finished. And then the other 52 minutes is hitting a bag, it's shadowboxing. You're taking them completely out of the environment, and they're not tuning into the information that they need to tune into, which is what's my
yeah,
opponent doing? What's the range like? What's the tempo change? They're trying to destabilize me. They're trying to get me off balance. They're not compliant. They're not trying to help each other. They're trying to not help each other. So the way to help each other is by not helping each other. And the
yeah,
problem is every time we do pat each other, we shadow box, you're helping each other. And we shouldn't be doing that. We should be uncompliant, unhelpful, trying to make each other miss, trying to make it messy. And I think a lot of times we're afraid of making the situation messy. We want it to look perfect. Boxing doesn't look perfect.
yeah.
It's a
When
mess.
I
And we
find,
need to make training a little bit more like a mess for me. But we're so
yes, I
scared.
understand.
We're so scared to make things perfect. Why? Boxing's not perfect. We need to make it messy. So yeah, I had a bit of a awakening around it, and obviously we can speak a bit more about ecological dynamics. But for me, it was the answer as to why I wasn't as successful as I could have been.
For me too, yes. And
Mm-hmm.
now I don't work with pets anymore. Maybe with how you said, recreative group,
Mm-hmm.
people who doesn't want to go to fight, but no more.
Mm-hmm.
I work pad only for promotion. You know,
Okay. Yeah. Like
attractive,
Mayweather.
yes,
Like
good
Mayweather.
for fitness, but for fighting, I don't think so. And I see my
Mm-hmm.
mistakes like coach, and after a mistake like fighter too. I work up pads a
Mm-hmm.
lot. I work a bag a lot, and my technique is good. But when I go to fight, it isn't like that.
Mm-hmm.
I think ecological dynamic and constructed lead approach is game changer in our sport.
Mm-hmm.
In sport, not just in our sport.
Mm-hmm.
And
And I think in
and
life, and life as well, not just sport, and in
yes,
life. If you look at things ecologically and understand your relationship with the environment and what's happening around you, you become a lot more tuned in to what's happening, a greater understanding everything. It just changes how you approach learning in general. If you understand that, problem is we take the boxer and we take him right out of the environment and we put him in this very sterile, like bags, like shadow boxing. We take the most important information away, and then we expect the boxer to learn and develop. And then we go, right, let's spar, and then they can't land a punch. So
yeah,
we always say that my way of describing it is that we teach a boxer to punch, but we don't teach the boxer to land the punch.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of one way to describe that. So
And
it's a very big difference. I mean, anyone can go boom, boom. Anyone can punch. But what happens when the person's punching back or they're trying to move? Then they can't solve the problem because that problem's never been, they haven't experienced that problem with bags, with pads, with shadow boxing. So we take the boxer out of that and then they expect them to learn. It just doesn't work that way for me. So I think, as you said, Danielle, I think ecological dynamics is something. I'm not saying that everybody needs to go ecological, but what I'm saying is I think everybody needs to look into this and start thinking about how
definitely.
they bring environment back into boxing a lot more than what we do. Because we're either shadow box and pads or we're open spar. Now, the great thing about open sparring is I think you will learn a lot from open sparring or
Yeah.
conditioned sparring or constraints-based sparring. You can learn a lot and it's great. But the problem is we get punched in the head. So if we're getting hit in the head, that's a problem just for safety, welfare of the boxer. So we can't just go punch, 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 punch. The boxer's going to be, they're going to be sick, very ill in 2 or 3 years, and we've got a responsibility. So I think the problem is things like BJJ, mixed martial arts, it's better for them because they can grapple. They can grapple. They can
Yes.
hold. They can do all these things that I don't have any idea about, but they can grapple and they can take this. They can take this away. But we've got a problem. That how do we keep boxing representative? So looking like the sport without getting this smashed in. Big problem, and I'm still trying to solve that. And I don't think I'll ever solve that, but I'm working on making that a little bit more real, a bit more achievable. So, what are your thoughts around that? About trying how you
I
keep
think,
the
yeah,
nerve?
I understand. I think it's just light sparring. I
Mhm.
think is light sparring, light session, no full power in head. It's
Mhm.
answer for that. It's my opinion. What do you think
Mhm.
about that?
Well, I
And
think
where we can find that?
well Scott said it the other day, didn't he? So Scott from Primal MKE, he
Yeah,
said,
I
"Oh,
follow him. He is great.
absolutely fantastic," and he's always talking to me about that as well. He said, "Adam, I don't really know how you solve that problem. You've got such a problem there." Little things like he'll say, "Hard to the body, light to the head." So if you're going
Yes,
to hard to the body, light to the head, at least that gives them a little bit more permission to let that power go to the body,
you
but then
have a
having
pressure,
set
but
it
you
up.
don't have a.
Yes, exactly. So there's kind of psychological pressure and there's realism when you're going down to the body. But if you're coming up to the head, we have to realize that if you're getting hit, every time you get hit in the head, there's damage. And I think boxing coaches hide that too much. They say, come on, come on, come on. No, every time you get hit, damage. Every time you head a football, damage. There's damage. So we have to concede that, but then think, how do I mitigate those risks? So a sparring culture for me, Danielle, is important. It's about understanding what that looks like in terms of playing around. So if you say to any coach, actually we play or we do games, that almost sounds like it's soft and it's like babies and children. Oh, we play, we play. Well, I think there can be loads learned from playing in sparring and achieving outcomes in games. But I think boxing doesn't really want to hear that much. It doesn't want to hear let's play games because it's soft.
I
Why?
don't know, but Lomachenko definitely played, and he is one of the
Mhm,
best. For my opinion, the
mhm.
best. I love that guy, and uh, I finished your course, and
There it
that
is.
is yes, and that is one phenomenal way to how you say educate coaches, and
Mhm.
I want you to say something more about that.
Yeah. So I
And
think
you
is
have
that
a course for parents too.
sure, sure. So I think is that course there? Is that the boxing model one? Is that the first
Yes,
one?
yes, yes.
Yeah. So the boxing model it
You
took me about
teach.
it took me about 9 months, not just to make the course, but to make the model. So I thought to myself, when I'm coaching, I don't want to just go, right, let's teach the left hook. Let's teach the right cross. Let's teach the jab today. Let's teach this defense, that defense. I think then people needed, and I needed to kind of understand what's happening in a boxing ring when two people are boxing together. What are the dynamics that are happening? What's actually real? Then I thought, right, if I want to make a model to help me understand boxing better, to help me coach it, for my boxers to understand it more, but also for our members to understand it. And I'm not saying it's 100% perfect or 100% correct, but what I am saying, I do think there's some principles there that people can use to help them understand the process of what's going on. So to go through it briefly, balance and shape. We say shape in England. I don't know if it's similar.
Yeah, shape.
Balance and shape. So and they might, and shape is slightly different depending on the person. Look at me, I'm very tall. I'm 6'5", which is, I don't know what that is, 197 centimeters, something like that. So I'm quite tall. So my shape was a lot different to perhaps your shape. But balance for me is something that should always be a constant. So without balance, we can't punch, we can't defend, we can't move. So we have balance and shape. Then we have position. Where am I standing in the ring compared to the position of my opponent? So there's little things you can think about, like how much space do I have behind me? So I found that I found a lot of boxers and a lot of coaches were doing pads, or they were punching in a position in the ring which wasn't sustainable. So you'd have two boxers right against the rope, standing here and standing here, and they're punching. Don't stand here, stand here.
Yeah, close
So we always say, yeah,
window.
very ecological. But people were just throwing punches to land punches. They weren't thinking about, where am I standing? So a little phrase we like to use is position before punch, PBP, position before punch. Where are you standing first to make yourself more successful? So it's about thinking about the position. So then we sort of had two ideas, like, okay, I can lead off an attack, or I can counter punch, right? Or be a bit more proactive in my counter punching. So I can counter attack, or I can counter punch. So I can either choose to go first or let them go first. So I think boxers need to almost choose what they're doing in any specific moment. But just slightly before that, we talk about deception. So are you feinting? Are you triggering is another word we use, and are we drawing? So for me, a feint is something you do before you attack. So I might feint here, but then I come down here instead. Pretend to here, but then come here instead. Whereas a draw and a trigger is about opening up an opportunity or making someone punch. So for me, that's more of a defensive element, something you do before you defend and counter punch or counter attack. So the whole point, I don't want to go through it. I won't go through every single part because that would take me ages. But the whole point for me is to get down to something called a sustained attack, where you are going again, defending, attacking, with a positional dominance, and you are being looked at by the judges and by the referee and the judges as being dominant, because the three criteria is number of blows on the target area, technical and tactical superiority, and competitiveness. So the model is based around those three scoring criteria. And I think the boxing model works towards the three scoring criteria. So it's not just about being technically brilliant. It's actually, I'm trying to win because I understand the rules about being dominant or superior in certain areas. Anyway, so there's a lot more to it. But yeah, you've got the certificate there, and it just helped me, and maybe it helped coaches just put it into a bit more of a process of how they coach, rather than just saying, let's pick a left hook now, or let's pick a roll. Where, why? That's what I'm doing. Sorry for the long answer there, but
No, we want a long answer, and it's really game changer. And I think that how you say, that model must be in every club in world, because that is game changer. And,
well,
I know that gonna go up. That is for Nobel. And I
thank you,
wanted to ask
appreciate
you,
that.
I want
Mhm.
to ask you what is the most important lesson in your life?
Most important lesson.
Yeah,
Now, I don't want to sound too cliche, but one is work hard. Must work hard. And that sounds obvious, but so many kids, for me, when I ask them after a session, if you were to give yourself a mark out of 10, 10 being I worked so hard and one being I was lazy, where were you today? And what do you think? What number do you think they always give? Most of them will give. What number do you think they give?
he wants to go with 10,
They want to go with 10, but how much? What do you think they actually say? In my
maybe
experience,
8,
yeah, they always say 7 or 8. How
7 or
hard
8.
did you work today? 7 or 8. Usually 7, but they'll go 7 or 8.
Wow,
So my question is, okay, if you worked 7 or 8 and you continue to be a 7 or 8, you're going to be okay at boxing. So my question
nothing
is,
special.
how do you get to being a 9 or a 10? So if you're an 8, how do you get to being a 9? If you're a 9, how do you get to being a 10? So how do you get that extra one every single time? And it's their answer is usually, well, I work harder. Well, that's nonsense. Work harder. What does that look like? What does working hard look like? But it might mean, well, do you know what? When I walked through the door of the gym, my body language was like this. I was slow. It took me 10 minutes to put my hand wraps on. And then I walked into the gym. I sort of skipped and I started talking to my friends about the football or about something irrelevant. So your warm up instantly looks like a 3. So to get to you being a 9 or a 10, we're already losing. We're already losing. So I think a lot of it is about awareness of their state, what they are doing, and how they bring every single little 1% in to their improvement. So for me, working hard is one of the most important things, but it's not just telling people to work hard. They've got to understand, what does that mean? What does that look like? What can I control? And there's so many things that people don't control and they let it go. I'll let that go. I'll let that go. It doesn't matter if I'm 2 minutes late. It doesn't matter if I'm the last person to start doing an exercise. It doesn't matter. Yes, it does, because
It
every
does.
week, every session, every week, and it adds up and it accrues. And that 1% ethos is so important, but people don't realize. So I think people need to learn better. Kids need to learn how to learn better. So that's what I'm saying. And the other thing, and hopefully you don't mind my language, the other thing is, don't be a dickhead.
Yeah, yes,
Don't
I understand
don't be
you.
a dickhead, right? And there's so many people who are just being dickheads. And what I mean by that, and I don't mean it in a derogatory way, um, there's a book out about the All Blacks, the rugby team, the New Zealand rugby
Yeah,
team. It basically just says above their door, don't be dickhead, don't be a dickhead. And for
wow.
me, it says so much when you think about that word, that phrase, don't be a dickhead. It says so much when you really think about it. So, are you getting in your own way? Are you getting in your teammates' way? Because we're boxers, they fight alone, but they train together. Are you being a dickhead? Right. And it's just, again, it's finding ways to just for people to think, what am I doing that's slowing me down? What am I doing to slow my partner down? That's not helping. And that phrase just helps very much. So we always have conversations around, how have I been a dickhead today? How can I not be a dickhead? And I think it just encompasses this whole learning mentality. So that's my answer to your question. So you've got to work hard and don't be a dickhead.
Nice. I like it. And and what do you want? What do you wish you knew before you start your career? You understand me because my English is not.
Yes, I do. Yeah. That technique is just one small answer to a problem. So we think that technique is the way to do it. This is how you throw a jab. It's this. And I'm like, do you know what, Daniel? I actually thought technically, I was a good boxer. Technically, I
Me
was
too.
good.
For fight,
My punch
yeah.
mechanics. Yeah, I thought it was technically good. But then when I sparred, this technical answer wasn't landing. It wasn't working. So hold on. I was so confused because I was technically very good, but I can't land the punch. So in my head, I'm going, why am I doing this if I can't land the shot? So I wish I understood how to make my technique more dexterous,
Effective.
more
Yeah.
adaptable, more effective, more changeable. But the problem was I was just solving the same problem over and over again with one answer. That's the answer, that's the answer, that, or that's the answer, that's the answer. But how you change that makes it so they talk about learning is not solving the problem or repeating the answer to the problem. It's repeating the process of
Yes.
answering the problem. So there's so many different ways. That range. There's a million ways to land a jab, but I'd always thought that was the only way to land a jab. So I wish, to answer your question, I wish I understood how to make technique more transferable as a skill and work on skill, not just technique. So the whole idea of transferability of skill, I wish I understood more about that from the start. More about
Oh,
things
me
like
too.
Bernstein's hammer. How he solved the problem of hitting this piece of steel in different ways. Same with boxers. We need to find ways of hitting the target, not throwing the punch. There's millions of places you can hit me, millions of places, but we just choose one way of hitting this. Either here, it's here, or it's here. Well, what about round here? What about these parts around here? What about up here? What about the target area just here? How do we find, as long as it's hitting with the knuckle part of the glove, find a way? So I think we need to be a little more external with how we think, start thinking about the target rather than thinking about the internal process of how to throw a punch, because that debilitates us. That only locks us into one way of doing it. So you have to think about, stop teaching that, start teaching about how do you find these different targets. And that opens up a whole different way of thinking. So, external versus internal is a really important way of teaching, I think. And I do a lot of game sparring around that. Excuse me if I've gone off subject. But
No,
your
nice,
question,
nice. I like that. And what are the key principles in your training method?
partner people up, get people together, partner people up. It's that
Yes.
simple. I think so we have a rule at Dice and we have a rule at my club, whereas the first 5 minutes you are allowed to be on your own. So you can come and skip, you can shadow box, you can do whatever you want to, just to get your heart rate moving slightly, get your heart rate up, get yourself warm, but for 5 minutes. And then for the next 10 minutes, maybe before we go into a session together, you have to be coupled with someone. So that might be simple games like shoulder sparring, just touching the shoulders, touching the shoulders, touching the shoulders, touching the belly.
Yeah,
You have
in
to
my
be
club
coupled.
we do that too.
I mean, it's like, why wouldn't you? If the sport is this person and this person trying to beat each other, why would you take
Yeah.
away that person? It
Yeah.
doesn't really.
You can do that home. You don't need to come to gym to work on bag or shadow boxing.
Absolutely. Why would you pay to come to the gym where you can do it? You can do it at home in your garden. You can hang
Yes.
up. Why would you pay for it? So we always say the most important piece of equipment in a boxing gym is another person, because they're the
Yeah.
person who's teaching. They're the people who are teaching you to box. They're the people who are teaching you to fight, whatever word you want to use. A bag. Are the benefits? Yeah. Are the negatives? Lots. Same with
Yeah.
shadow boxing. I think people, when they shadow box, there's this almost like a badge of honor. Say, I'm really good at shadow boxing. I look great when I shadow box.
Yeah,
You've
but
got
you
to
don't
shadow
go to
box.
compete on shadow box.
Absolutely. I was great at shadow boxing. I was like an Olympic shadow boxer. But
Me too.
I do absolutely. But you get hit, and the problem with shadow boxing, every time you throw a shot, you think the shot's landed, and then you go bam, 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 bam. All 5 of those shots landed. You don't know. You don't know those shots landed. And then I did this. I do this. I do this. I do this. I do this. I don't know if that was successful. So there's no feedback telling me instantly if that was good. Whereas a spar with someone with me, even if I'm not touching it, so if I'm with someone and I'm just touching to the shoulders, I know if my feet were in the right position, or I know if I was too close because I'm getting caught. I instantly know, and that's probably the most important feedback. Now, is there a time for shadowboxing? Yes, of course there is. But why are we spending 30 minutes or 5 rounds on shadowboxing when I can just be touching shoulders, moving my feet, having different conditions in place and different challenges to help the
And
boxer
working on your skill, yeah.
working on my skill, working on my range, working on my tempo, all the things that are actually so important, like range management, probably the most important thing. Where are my feet compared to my opponent? Where's my position in the ring? And where is my range? All those things, once we take them out of the environment, they can't learn it anymore. And everybody throws punches and miss, and they all fall over their front foot. You know, they throw the right hand and they all fall over, and their back foot comes square and they fall over because they're so used to punching something that is not there, or the bag, boom, boom, boom. Yes, yes, yes. As soon as the bag moves, they fall over the front foot. So I just think there's a level of representativeness that we're not doing in boxing. It does bring us back slightly, though, Danielle, to we can't spar all the time because of this, but there are ways that we can bring up the representativeness, I think.
Yeah, but I think we can spar, but on easy way. I think
Yeah,
that
so
that's
when I said spar, I mean like that.
yeah, I understand.
You
Yeah,
can't
yeah,
do
yeah. We can. Yeah,
So I think that a good coach knows how to condition or put the right constraints into a spar, but not just if I'm sparring with you, it's not just right, Adam, I need you to do this. Danielle, can you just sort of help him a little bit? No, you
yeah,
need a condition. I need a condition. So we're both learning at the same time and both developing and both challenged at the right level. So they call that challenge point theory. Where's your level of challenge? But the problem is, what do? We go, right, jabs only, jab only, jab only. What am I learning from jab only? It's
yeah. I
just making
understand.
it so safe and no challenge at all. But if you're really good, and I've had one fight and you've had 100 fights, and the coach puts me with you, he's going to say usually, right, Daniel, do me a favor, just jab only for you. Adam, you can throw whatever you want, and then you're like, this is no good for me. But why can't we put a challenge in for you? Like, okay, what's the shot that you struggle with a lot, Daniel? Well, I don't use the left hook to the body, or I don't throw the uppercut. Right, I need you to try and land 3 uppercuts in this round. Simple little things. So there's still a challenge to you, but there's a big challenge to me. So there's both learning going on. So I think it's about how you put the right constraints in, or the right challenge, or the right task to help that boxer develop. So both boxers can always develop at the same time. And it's difficult. It's very difficult. But I think the more we think along those lines, the better for both boxers, would be my answer.
Yeah, yeah. And when and how did you start using ecological dynamic and constraint lead approach?
Okay. Um,
I think that is main main theme for us.
yeah. That moment, the
That
moment you
and
went,
boxing gathering. Yeah.
yeah, we call it in English, we say penny dropping moment, when the penny drops and you go, ah. For me, I was
Yes.
sitting at home watching football on the TV. My team's Arsenal. I'm a big Arsenal fan, so I was watching Arsenal, and my phone bleeped. And I looked at it, and my boss at the time, his name's John Wise, sent me a little message, and he said, "Have a look at this." And it was a podcast. So it was a podcast from Stuart Armstrong, who runs a podcast called The Talent Equation. And one of his early ones was called War on Drills. War on Drills. So I thought that's a quite interesting title. So I think, you know, I listened to it. So I turned it on and I was just listening to it going, yeah, yeah, yes. And I kept nodding and I kept going. And it was like in the space of 10 minutes, every problem I had as a boxer was suddenly the answer was there for me. This is why I wasn't as good as I could have been. And my eyes just lit up. So I think I straight messaged him, oh my God. So I just listened to every podcast from him. And of course, when you listen to a podcast, they then say, listen to this podcast. Someone else comes on. Oh, I like that guy. I'm going to listen to him. So I just consumed as many different podcasts as I could about ecological dynamics, realized about a week later that I actually know nothing about coaching. I
Same
thought
thing. Same
yeah,
thing.
I mean, I can see you smiling and I can see you thinking this sounds similar. And I'm
Because
like,
now I'm doing that. Every
mhm.
podcast I'm listening. I'm searching everything. In my phone is only ecological dynamic and constraint-led approach. And
But it's great, right? Because you now know it's like I don't really know much at all, and I love that I don't know much at all. I
yeah,
love it that I don't know much at all. Whereas before, I thought I knew everything about that's how you throw a jab, that's how you throw a hook. I thought I knew it all, and now I'm like, I don't know anything. But I'm
yeah,
happy that I don't know anything.
real
So
happy. Yeah.
yeah, it is the Matrix. It is wow. The real world is this isn't the real world, and you've got to start learning. But I think there's so many coaches out there that are just happy to do what they do because they're successful. And they're like, well, I've got 20, 30, 40 national champions. So why would I change it? Don't change it. Add to it. Add to what you're doing slightly. Just there are always little things to change. And I just think the moment I found out about it was like, it really was like, the world, the world is flat. Now I'm like, oh, okay, the world is round. That was
Yeah.
the moment for me, and it was just absolutely incredible. And I'm in such a happy place now because I'm constantly reading podcasts, trying to consume anything. I'm on Twitter or X, whatever it's called now.
Yeah.
Talking to people, speaking to people on my podcast about different things, and it's just wow. I was, my boxing career was a lie almost to myself.
It's
What about you? Similar sort of
it's
experience?
difficult. I see first time I see in one coach in Serbia, Nemanja Milošević,
Mhm.
best coach in MMA coach in Serbia, uh, talking about that, and that guy make a difference. I think his fighter doesn't lose 3 years ago. 3 years without losing, it's crazy.
Mhm.
And I start to search, and then I ask Nemanja about that, and he give me some resources. I listen in your podcast. I listen Primal MMA. I listen Combat Learning. It's
Mhm.
great source to learn, and I go to your website, and that blow my mind.
Mhm.
And now I'm crazy about that. Every free time I make my, how you say it, hands hands free. This one I
Yeah.
stay and I listen podcast.
Yeah. And in the
And
car, whenever you're in the car,
whatever.
yeah. It used to be Spotify music, Spotify
Spotify,
music,
yes, Spotify.
but now it's Spotify podcast all the
Yeah,
time.
me
And
too,
it's,
me
it's
too.
I don't
Yeah,
know, it's just a great place to be. People just
and I
think,
think people from ecological dynamic and construct lead approach are something like big community.
mhm,
Everybody know each other,
mhm.
and I think the people who doesn't do that in future gonna be in big trouble because we are coming. You know,
I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. I think
it's game
I think
changer.
it is. I think there's a couple of problems. I think because ecological dynamics, even the words ecological dynamics, it sounds very academic, right? So what the hell does that mean? So
Yeah.
people will instantly go, that puts me off. That puts me
And
off.
people like to
So
see pad work and fancy stuff.
absolutely. But I just think we have to be careful of not going, you're either ecological dynamics or you're information processing. Your
No,
old
I think
traditional
mix is,
linear.
yeah,
Mixing the styles, there's a lot of people saying it doesn't work, and I think in some ways they're correct. But what I mean is, I don't think it should be like, well, I do this, I'm ecological, and you do this, you're linear, and you're progression after progression, and we're in this camp or this camp. I think we've got to bring people in for the ride and actually say to them, maybe try this, see what your thoughts are, and people slowly become, okay, I understand it a little bit more. I mean, let's be honest, everything is ecological. Even if you're doing drills, there's still elements of ecological stuff that's going on. It's just getting people to understand it. Sometimes we're a little bit too much with the language. You know, we'll say affordances. I think
Yeah.
people do need to know the language, but I think we have to be better at explaining what the language means, why it means this, you know, offering an alternative to it, but then making sure we're using the correct language. I think sometimes we can be a little bit too, oh, this is an affordance, or this is an external focus of attention. Okay, well, let's use language they understand, and then they're more likely to understand the language. Because I think we do need one set of language for everything,
Yeah.
because otherwise everyone's talking about different things. But it's just how we bring everybody on board. You know, that let's not be dickheads. Don't be a dickhead with the whole approach to this. And then I think people will buy in, because people will just go, oh, I don't like it instantly, because of the way some people think they're a bit, I know better than you. Let's help them with the understanding, you know, and try and bring them aboard. You know, it's difficult from going to this, if you've been doing it all your life, to then go into this. People don't want to make that jump. So
You
it's
know,
just
it's
about being a bit more inclusive of our language, I think, perhaps.
yeah, it's new thing, and we are in our comfort zone with traditional way, and you
Mm-hmm.
must after comfort zone you have a zone of fear,
Mm-hmm.
and you said no to new thing,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that is problem with some coaches. You know, don't you tell me what I do and
Yeah,
something
of
like
course.
that.
But the problem with that is that if you're saying there's only the one way to do it, and this is how you do it, then why would the boxer want to try something different as well? So why would the boxer want to learn a different
Yeah,
way to solve the problem if the coach is only saying there's only one way to solve that problem? It's this. Well, actually, there's lots of different ways to solve the problem. But if we're not willing to change our approach to how we learn, then why should the boxer? Why should the boxer change how they learn and start playing with different ideas and different ways to solve the problem? Because the coach is saying you do this and that's the only way you do it. Well, that just leaves you a very, very narrow outcomes. We want different ways to find the outcome. So yeah, I think the whole lifelong learning thing is so important for a coach to role model. And if they're not role modeling that, then why would the boxer? So it's
yeah,
counterproductive to be very myopic in how you think. Would be my opinion.
yeah. I understand. I agree with you. And can you tell us a little bit more about Box Gathering? You have great community. How you start? What is inspiration behind, and what we can expect in future?
Do you know what? I'm really proud of the story. Um,
Bro, me too. I'm
I'm really
really
proud,
proud to be part of that. Yeah.
and we appreciate that. So in England, the main lockdown we had in England for COVID was March 2020. So in England, the rule was no one goes outside unless you have certain permissions. So boxing gyms all closed. So we had all these boxing coaches at home going, I can't coach. There was a few ideas about setting up some Zoom calls and the coach doing some sessions with their boxers on Zoom call, but it would be like do some press ups, do some sit ups, do some exercises. You know, you weren't with people. So anyway, there was a big problem there. So me and my colleague at the time called Ivan Cobb, we said, let's just do a Zoom call, bit like we're doing now. And then 4 or 5 coaches came on and we just started talking about coaching, and everyone's sitting at home in their kitchen or their lounge. And then next week we did it again and there were 10 people on. And then we said, let's do it twice a week. And then there were 20. And then suddenly we had 30, 50 people from coaches from all over England, and then some from abroad coming on. And we made it quite formal. We said, right, let's talk about some technicals or some tactical or some physical. Let's talk about things that people want to hear about. So it might be Danielle says, Can we talk about pressure fighting? Can we talk about boxing on the back foot? Can we talk about better nutrition? Okay, you will do that. So we took all these kind of we took all the ideas from the people that were coming on the calls, and we started having these conversations. And then we went, hold on, let's bring some experts in as well. So we'd bring in a nutritionist, we'd bring in a strength and condition guy, we'd bring in a top coach. Like, we've had the Billy Walsh, the American Olympic team coach on. We've had coaches from all over the world, coach educators come on. We've had Stuart Armstrong, we've had John O'Sullivan, top coach educators, JP Nurban, top educators coming on and talking about different subjects. And everybody just consumed this information. And it was brilliant. Everyone loved it. And then we'd get people to answer, that they would ask questions to the people that come on. We had top boxing, top professional boxers coming on, top professional coaches coming on, Joe Gallagher, Adam Booth, people like that, great coaches, and just asking them questions. So we had these people that everyone thought were legends, and then these coaches just asking them questions like they were in a pub, like with a pint of beer in their hand and just chatting away about something. It was brilliant. Yeah. It was so nice, and we were proud of that. But then obviously lockdown finished. Coaches, the gym started opening their doors again. It was a slow return, but we started opening the doors again. And those Zoom calls kind of stopped because all the coaches were back in their gyms. So what we thought we'd do then is create a website where there's all this information that coaches can find and boxers can find to help them with the journey. So they can download information, they could download PowerPoints, they could download infographics. We have a big problem in boxing where, like, when you're leaving the gym at night, you've got 100 parents asking you questions. Oh, what about this? What about this? Or the boxers asking you questions, and you're like, there's only one or two of you. So the idea was, well, here's some information. Why don't you send that to the parents about nutrition, about sleep, about stretching, about running? Here's some information. So that information kind of went beyond the four walls of your gym. So you could influence the boxers, your coaching team, but just as important, you could influence the parents, because the parents they are king. Parents are king and queen. They look after the boxers, and they're the ones that are going to buy the food. They're the ones that are telling them what time to go to sleep. They're the ones that are driving them to their boxing bouts or training. You need them on side, but there was a lot of parents stay away. You're the devil, this kind of thing. You're the devil. Oh. Why? So we wanted to help that. So our approach now, Danielle, is boxer, coach, parent, and how we can help those three people be supportive more to the actual boxer, have that kind of triangle around the boxer. So, and since then, it's just developed and developed. We've got a large membership now, and people were sharing ideas. We have a WhatsApp group, which you are now part of, and people will share ideas, or we'll talk about a certain professional fight that's coming up, or some ideas around this, some ideas around that, and people just share ideas. And I think what's good is that people are sharing, rather before, I think people were very much, I'm a coach, I don't want to give away my secret. I don't want to pass that secret on to someone else. But now people are just sharing information, and it's just, this community is making everybody better. And we're really, really proud of that. My colleague Ivan stepped aside to focus on delivering the level 3 qualification for England boxing, which is kind of an all year round thing. And I have a colleague now called Phil Richardson, who is a boxing coach, who helps me run the site. So lots of videos, instructionals, lots of interviews that we did during lockdown. Like I say, PowerPoints, infographics, articles about lots of different things, quizzes. There's so much information on there, and people can just consume that at their own pace. And we're constantly going to be adding new courses as well. So on your wall there, you've got your certificate on the wall for the boxing model. We've got one up there about parents. The next one we're doing is women in boxing. And then we're doing traits of good coaches. So there's lots of little courses that are coming up all the time to help that ongoing help and support. I don't really want to say education, but that help and support for boxers, parents, and coaches. There you go. That is the box gathering, as it were.
did you plan in future some training camps and something like that?
I think there's no, we have got some long-term plans that we want to do. So lots of the plans as well is to make our information sort of multilingual. So if there is a need in Serbia, if there is a need in India, if there's a need uh, in China, then put the information into Mandarin, into a Slavic language, into German, into French. We have lots of interest from America, etc. Obviously, they speak English, but if we have, there's some Italians that are interested, some French that are interested, and some Nordic countries as well. So we want to put it into their language to make it relevant to them as well. But yeah, we do want to do courses as well, like more face-to-face things. But at the moment, we just kind of want the website as the main hub, and then we can start doing more. Actually, let's invite people in and have people on the ground, and let's talk about good pads. Let's talk about constraints-based approach to sparring. So have a subject that we can talk about. We don't want it to be me saying this is how you do it. We want it to be the community of people sharing their experiences and ideas. It's got to come from them, not from one or two people. And I think that's the strength of the box gathering. It's involving people. And when we say connect, share, grow, that's our mantra. Connect people together, coaches, boxers, parents, share information, grow. Otherwise, we're standing still.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Can you tell something more about your sparring cards for challengers?
Yeah, so
I
the
think that
sparring
is
challenges.
great thing. And how you find it out?
So my colleague Ivan led on that. He started creating them, and he created the sparring cards, and I had an influence into it as well. And we started talking about different areas of that. Now we'd seen something similar in other sports before, so we thought, how can we make that relevant to boxing? So what we did is we created these cards. There's 90 cards. 45 of those are games or constraints or conditions that you can put into your sparring to help because I think a lot of coaches might go, right, well, what spars do I know? Well, jab only, or straight shots only, or bent arm shots only. You can only throw one shot or two shots. That's fine, but is there a goal you're trying to achieve from it? So we try and work backwards. So in other words, here's what you need to try and achieve. How can you work backwards from that? How can you solve that problem in different ways? So it's kind of that repetition without repetition approach to learning. And so there's loads of tasks and constraints there. And I think it kind of scaffolds and help coaches, especially if you're a bit more of a beginner coach, to get more learning and development from your sparring. But then the other 45 was planning. So what are you going to do in the session? So you could share a card with your boxer and say, right, here's a plan for the session. Let's start thinking about this. And then there was a do part, which is, we call it a hot review. So during the spar or during the exercises, what are you thinking about? Where's your attention focused during the spar or during the exercise? And then we had a review session, which is like review the session, but make sure that review then links to your next session. So you've got this constant plan, do, review, plan, do, review, and it's cyclical. And then that just continued the learning on. I think it's quite traditional that a boxer comes to the session, they do the session, and they think, I've learned something, but they never really think about it for the next session and how they recall that information. So these cards help you structure the learning process, plan, do, review. Quite simple, really. And then bring that into some back. So that's what the cards do. We do quite a lot, to be fair. We don't make really much money at all, if I'm honest, on the cards, but it's something that we're proud of, and we've had so much feedback over the years with these. And we do get a lot of feedback constantly saying it's really helped us with engagement as well, not just made people better coaches, but engaged the boxers. Boxers are so much more happier because they're involved a lot more. So
Yeah, that is really
yeah,
great.
they're a great thing. So yeah, thanks for asking that question.
And you have awesome thing. It's boxer handbook.
Hmm. Yep.
No,
So yeah, the boxer handbook is, I think it's about 75 maybe pages, and it's just a simple handbook, like a PDF that you can download. So when you come onto the box gathering, so theboxgathering.com, not .co.uk, that one's, we're kind of getting rid of that one. So when you go on to www.theboxgathering.com, you put your email address in, and then the website will send you this 75-page boxer's handbook. And it's just got lots of information about technical stuff, tactical, physical, mental, periodization, running, nutrition, sleep, well-being, kind of the whole holistic picture. But it's very simple stuff. I think it's presented in quite a nice way to make it easy. Some of it, if I'm honest, is a bit linear. It's a bit information process based, but I think we just wanted to keep it simple in a format where people can use it as a support to their own training if they're a boxer, support for their boxer if they're a coach, and it also helps parents understand some of the tasks that the boxer might be doing. So it's just a support, or as we say, a scaffold, to help people understand the sport from a bit of a beginner standard. So, what did you think of it? What were your thoughts when you read through it?
you blow my mind another time when I open that. That is great thing. I'm on your website. Every free moment I have, I going up and search something new thing, and we're really fascinated by your work.
Appreciate that. There's a
Thank you
lot of
for everything
resources.
you do for boxing community. I think world need you.
That's very flattering, very flattering. But yeah, I appreciate your kindness.
And what is your biggest challenge you fact like a coach?
Um, I think it's pushback. So by pushback, what I mean is, that's just, so people will say that's just pink and fluffy. That's just, ugh, what a load of nonsense. Let's get in there. Let's open spar. Let's bang, bang, bang. That's all you need. Let's keep boxing simple. Now, I agree. Our job as coaches is to keep boxing as simple as possible, trying to keep it
Yes.
as simple as possible. But the problem is, it's not simple. You can say stuff like hit and don't get hit. That's the name of the game. Yeah, of course it is. It's hit and don't get hit. But in reality, boxing is so detailed, so chaotic, so much mayhem,
Yeah.
so much variability, that there needs to be so I think a good coach is able to actually put this chaos into a way that the boxer can understand. So, for example, like the boxing model,
Yeah.
get them to understand how to learn better, be a good learner and understand, but keep it in a way where the boxer is living outside of their head, but not living inside their head. Because as an athlete and as a martial artist, that if you live in your head too long, you miss the opportunity. So
Yeah.
I think it's just about getting boxers to understand how to trust themselves, but also having that deep understanding of what's going on in those dynamics in boxing. So to answer your question, I think it's just about how to help people maybe understand that there is a different way out there, and it's showing them why this can be effective, why putting people into the ecology or into the environment that boxing looks like, another person in front of each other, how you read information, how you tune into information. That is probably the most important thing. And I think it's a big challenge we're always going to have, because some people are so, technique is the key. Drills are the key. I don't like drills. Depends how you
Me too.
define the word drills. But for me, a drill is on your own, practicing on your own without an opponent, repeating something over and over again. So it depends how you define drill. So some people will say a drill would be something like a technical spar where you're throwing, you're defending. Well, for me, that's not a drill, because there's a bit more information going on there. So yeah, so can we take people away from this perfect Instagram video approach of, oh man, your drills are brilliant, and drillers make killers. Heard that one? Drillers make
Yes.
killers.
Yes.
And I just hate it because drillers
Me
don't
too.
make killers. You know, they don't let you tune into the information. So the pushback would be, well, how can they be a good boxer if they don't know how to do the movement first? You've got to teach them how to do the movement before they can spar. I don't really believe that. I think stripping away the information which is most important, which is the movement, the range management, understanding the tempo, getting the reads from when someone's about to punch, where they're punching from, where am I looking, be able to read an opponent. Like you said, Lomachenko, he can just read people. He can just see what's happening and he can execute. You know,
Yeah, and
absolutely brilliant. You can't.
he starts fighting, and he only watch information of his opponent,
Mhm.
and after that,
Absolutely. He doesn't punch. He
he,
doesn't punch for the first 30 seconds.
yeah.
And I see what he does. I see what he does. I see what he does. Picking up information, maybe consciously, probably most of it subconsciously. However you want to put it, my language might be incorrect there, but he's
Yeah, I
constantly.
understand everything.
It's
My
like a
English is bad
stakeout
when I
with two
talking, but I
policemen.
understand. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so I call it like a stakeout with police. You know, the old movies in the 1980s, two police sitting in a car at night watching the drug den, watching that house, who's coming in, who's coming out, what time. It's picking up information. But a boxer has to be able to pick up information very quickly, especially an amateur boxer, because you've got 3 2-minute or 3 3-minute rounds. So you've got to be able to pick up that information quickly. And I think, how do you pick up information? How do you stake out that house if you're not looking at someone? You've got
Yeah.
no information to tune into. So I think that's a big part of maybe where we're going wrong. Not wrong, that's probably the wrong way to say it, but where we can be better is probably a best way to say it. We can be better. Hopefully I've answered your question there.
Yeah, I understand.
I'm not sure if I have.
It's nice, and I want can you share us a story about your proudest moment, like coach? I think that
Proudest moment.
you have a lot of that moments.
Um, I think it'd probably be easy to say, you know, when you've had your first national champion, something like that. Yes,
Yeah,
that is a
I'm crying
proud moment.
when my boxer first time win a national champion. I was crying. I
Absolutely,
think
and you know, and it's a journey, isn't it? You know, the struggle, the pain, the up, the down, and suddenly you're here at the top. It
yes,
is amazing. It is amazing. But I think mine was more not a moment, more just a realization that the journey was great. So I used to have a boxer, a female boxer called Adrienne, and she had around, I think she had maybe about 35 bouts in the end. I think she lost more. She lost more than she won. Right, she lost more than she won, but her attitude to learning, to development, and her courage and commitment was so like beyond what I initially thought she could be. She was very nice, quiet, kind girl, but she developed this. She developed this way of kind of, although she didn't always win, she got over her fear. You know, she managed to apply herself, and she beat some girls that were very good, and you know, maybe she lost to and then she beat them again. She was just so able to um, overcome adversity, where I don't think initially she had that in her. She didn't have that toughness, that resilience, that grit in her mind, but she developed that. And I think she kind of reminds me a little bit of me. I think that's probably why I didn't have that brilliant. I wasn't strong. I'm not strong at all, you know. But I was quite strong. In some places, I was strong in my mind. I would always give my 100%. Although I didn't always have my confidence in myself that I could always win, I always knew that I could give 100%. And that was kind of one of her strengths. So I think it was just this process of seeing someone going from this young girl, 18 years old at university, to 24, 25 years old, boxing in national championships. She boxed once for England, and it just that whole process of seeing her grow and become more confident and stronger in herself. For me, that's great. And I've got several sort of stories similar to that, but that would probably be my answer to that question. You know, the process of seeing someone grow, not just as a boxer, but as a person, as an adult, from a young adult
Yeah,
to an adult. That would be my answer.
yeah, I understand, and
What,
I
what
agree
about
with
you?
you. It's
What about you?
same thing, same
Mhm.
thing. When you see the kid come to you, and that kid don't have how you said confidence, have he's scary, he's between everybody, and that kid step and watch, fear, and win
Mhm.
and become the best.
And the best
That
version of
is,
yourself. Yeah, the best
yeah,
version
in my
of
life,
them.
not just only in the ring.
And if for what else? Why are we doing it? For what else? You
Yes,
know, we all want champions, of course we do. But there's it depends how you measure success. You know, and
yeah, it's not
we
everything
want.
in winning. It's not everything in winning. It's to make good person when
Mhm.
he get out of door of the gym. So
Completely,
I think,
100%. I agree with that.
yeah,
When you think that way, yeah, I think absolutely.
I want to know what you think of boxing for 10 years. What you see the future? How you see future in boxing?
Ooh, good question.
And it's
Really,
tough because we have now IBA and world boxing, and
yeah,
it's tough story.
yeah, and that's messy. You know, so
Yes.
you've got the Olympic Committee obviously not speaking to EBA and World Boxing coming up the ranks, and maybe EBA speaking to World Boxing. It's a mess. Um, in terms of boxing, firstly, you know, we hope Olympic boxing will happen for LA.
Yeah, I think gonna be because they
I think,
tried with wrestling 1 year too. If you
mm,
know, trying to go out with wrestling and it doesn't happen. I think
sure.
boxing community and people love boxing. It's
Mhm.
it's not possible to be Olympic without boxing. I think.
Yeah. The Olympics do lose something huge in the history, and you know, and
Yeah,
so many people made their careers from the start of that. But I don't know enough about the politics of how it works. You know, there's so many wheels that are turning to get this right. Um, but I just can't see it not happening. But in terms of maybe from a coaching point of view, so rather than the political side of things, from a coaching point of view, I do see more of a wider understanding of coaches opening their arms to ecological dynamics, constraints-based approach to learning, you know, non-linear pedagogy. So you go, there's all these fancy words again, which probably aren't helping me help that. But I think people will start once they start to realise this. There is this alternative approach to helping your boxers to understand the dynamics of boxing and what's going on in their environment. Then people will start turning and start thinking, wow, there is this new way of learning. And I think I can see this. I think you said it at the start. I think people are slowly opening their eyes to a different way, whether they want to make that full jump, you know, like a Scott Siverite. I don't know if everyone's going to make that full jump in 10 years' time, but I think people are starting to realize there's a different way to it. I'm still blending IP with ecological dynamics for better or for worse, but I'm trying to move that way as much as possible. And I
yeah,
just
I
think,
have a problem too because when you stuck, you go to old way, and more
yeah,
I know of ecological dynamic, I go there.
mhm.
And
It's easy.
it's
It's easy to go back to the old way, isn't it? If you're,
yeah, but I don't want that. I don't want
yeah,
that
yeah.
because everything we do in ecological dynamic has a more sense
Mhm.
of fighting, of sport, of everything.
Sure. I just think a lot of it is, you know, that kind of level of representativeness, you know, maybe like one being a shadow box or a drill, 10 being an open spar, maybe where you say the result at the end. That level of representativeness, what the sport looks like. I think you got to play with that a little bit, going up and down with the level of representativeness. And of course, the problem we got is the head trauma. So we've got to play with that. But I think if we are struggling, it might be like we strip away something, but we always try and keep that paired where we can. Try and keep it paired and coupled as much as possible. Because if I'm sparring with you, there's always perception action. There's always perception action, and I think perception action is a great place to start if people are interested in ecological dynamics. Just understanding a little bit about perception and action, and how you act helps you see differently, and how you what you see makes you act differently, and it's this constant flow of energy and perception and action. I think it's a starting there. So try and keep perception action happening all the time, but there are certain things that maybe we can get rid of if we're trying to I don't know, dull it down. But I think a good coach is able to shine a light on certain areas that the boxer needs to attend to or keep their attention on. So yeah, I just think in the future this will become a little bit more easy to swallow and easy to understand, and much better for the sport, not just in performance, but in engagement, retention of people in the sport, people wanting to do sport because they're involved more. There's deeper understanding. I think we lose people to the sport because they're not involved. They're not asked questions. They're not challenged. They don't understand. It's like anything. If you don't understand something, you'll move away from it. If you understand why you're doing something, you'll stay in that a lot more. There's a lot more, there's a lot more involvement, competency. There's more autonomy. You're involved. That relatedness, being involved in the process is all important. So yeah, that's kind of. I think it will go a little bit more eco. How that looks in 10 years, I don't know, but people will be a bit more understanding.
I think you answer my next question. That is what changes you would like to see in sport.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'll give you a real good one there. Instagram. It's people think that technical perfection is brilliance. It means you're, oh, what a coach, what a brilliant coach. And you see the pads, where someone's going, boom, that's how you throw a hook. That's how you throw an uppercut. That's it. And it's perfect. And I look at it and go, how many people have liked that page or that post? And there's, whatever, 10,000 people have liked that post. And they're saying, wow, man, you're on fire. You know your stuff. You're brilliant. And I'm looking at it going, technically that looks brilliant, yes, but that is very small amount of that box. It doesn't make sense because of this. So that box is going to, so everyone watching that is going to repeat that over and over and over and again, expecting to learn it, expecting to assimilate it, expecting to apply it in their spar, and expecting it to turn into skill. It doesn't. So I think we need to know much more about skill acquisition, motor learning. And I don't want to sound like this coach who's coming up with the fancy words, but we've got to get past that and just go, if you're going to post something online, really have a deep understanding about what you're saying. If I'm going to fix your car and I'm going to post a picture of me fixing your car, I'm going to show you why this part relates to that part and this part relates. I'm not just going to go, I turn a spanner, your car's fixed. Wow, did you see him turn that spanner? The car is now fixed. Show the process, the understanding of why this works. And we're not doing that. And I just think it worries me slightly that a lot of people have been shown this way of solving a problem, but they're not thinking about how to solve it in different ways. And Instagram is a nightmare for that. And it's an absolute minefield.
Yeah, Instagram is nightmare. TikTok, it's worse nightmare than Instagram.
I don't go on TikTok. Probably for that reason.
Yeah, me too. And what advice you have to young boxer who just started?
Excuse me. Enjoy it. Enjoy it would be the first thing. It's the best sport in the world for me. I've done football.
Enjoy and make mistakes.
Love that. Yeah, love that. And people are afraid to make mistakes. I think, because in boxing, if you make a mistake, you can get hurt. And I understand that. But if your culture of learning is correct, then making mistakes becomes the most important thing to do. But people aren't willing to. Whenever it's sparring, it's about perfection. I've got to be perfect. Got to be perfect. And yes, there are times when you want to do that because it's about pressure testing. Where is my level at the moment? And I want to be perfect. I get that. But the other times you want to be messy as much as possible. Apparently, I've heard stories that when you watch Muhammad Ali sparring, it looked horrible. He was getting hit. He looked all over the place, but he was always trying something. He was always trying to do something different, and it was messy and it didn't look great. But learning is messy. Learning doesn't look great. It doesn't look perfect. It's not a dance where this step, then that step, then that step. It's messy. But then when he boxed, this was Muhammad Ali. He could bring it all together. But when he was learning, and it looked messy, and he allowed himself to look silly, fail. We hear this all the time, don't we? You've got to keep failing to learn. You've got to make mistakes to learn. And the reason people are saying that is because it's true. But I think people just hear it because it sounds something cool to say on Instagram. It sounds like something, I'm very wise because I say you've got to make mistakes. So he must be very wise. But it's true. It's true. It's really sort of saying, and I think a coach plays an important role there by saying, if you do make a mistake, so if Daniel, if you're trying something new and you are making mistakes, I'm not going to go, get your hands up, stop doing this, stop doing this. I might reward you for trying that. It didn't work. How are you going to change it? So your language to the boxer when they do make mistakes is important. If you're saying no, stop doing that, then of course they're not going to explore anymore. So I think the coach needs to have that kind of, all right, keep going. What are you going to do different? What are you going to do? How are you going to change that? How are you going to change it? What would you do now? Tell me what you saw. Why did you choose that? Okay, what are you going to do different? That language becomes so important because if they keep doing, if you just say stop, don't do that again, you're narrowing that ability to solve the problem in different ways. So I think that's really, really important. So one would be, yes, your addition there would be make mistakes. So have fun. Feel free to make mistakes. And then I suppose the last one would be maybe start with the end in mind. So what do you want to achieve? Not just what do you want to achieve in boxing, like I want to be professional or I want to box for Great Britain or I want to win a national title. But even in that spar, so for the next 10 minutes, what do I want to achieve? So what does the end look like? And then how do I go into it? Hold on, my son's coming. Hello. You give me a hug?
Hi.
Look at this. This is
Hi.
trying to give me a cornetto. You say hello.
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 Next champion.
Next
Thanks
champ
for
is in.
Welcome.
Next champ is in video.
Hi, Jonesy. Look at that.
Nice.
Ice cream. Yeah, they're beautiful. Yeah, so I think it's like, what do I want the next 10 minutes to look like? How do I want to go about this? So start with the end in mind and work backwards. But sometimes we just go, I'll do this, and I don't think about it, and I'll do this. It's like, what do you want to achieve today? So I think boxers need to know why they're doing it. And that really helps them focus the long term, the short term, and they know what their session looks like. And they can start really taking ownership of that session, as opposed to, most boxers are like in a dark room looking for the light switch. Where's the light switch? Light switch. I don't know where the light switch is. They're doing that most of their boxing career or most of their boxing sessions because they haven't really set themselves a target or a goal. Or their goal is, I want to be a world champion. Well, that's not really helpful. But if we can work backwards and say, well, let's work backwards from that. Well, I want to be able to have my first fight. What does that look like? How do I get there? And help them set goals, help them be a bit clearer in what they want. I think people will stay in the sport a lot longer because they're involved. So they would be my two, and definitely your third one there in terms of feel free to make mistakes and how you allow your boxer to make mistakes. Yeah. So I am going to eat this.
Okay, okay. One of coach from Serbia who do ecological dynamic, Pešut. He's from Nemanja Milošević, coach. He told me for training, when you see everything is good, everything is nice, everything is going well, you must change it. You must change because everybody passed that level,
Mhm.
and I
Yeah, I
think
think
I
they call
think
that.
that is great thing.
Yeah, I've heard that called the. I think it's called the sigmoid curve. When you get to the top, change it because everybody
Yeah,
else is changing. So if I box you and I beat you, and then you say, right, Adam, let's have a rematch, the likelihood is the next time round you're going to get a lot closer to me or beat me because I keep doing what I'm doing, but you're going to change what you're doing because you're going to learn a lot quicker. So I think it's the same with coaching. If you're doing the same thing over time and you're getting success, you don't stay the same. You still look for those 1% about how you can get better. So yeah, I completely agree with that. It's like, how do you keep looking for that extra all the time, all the time? Same like football as well. You know, like Manchester City, Arsenal, they're looking for those little 1% all the time. And Arsenal are getting closer to Manchester City. Sorry for the non
I know,
boxing.
I know her.
We're getting closer because we're just taking care of little things all the time, and it's getting closer. So yeah, absolutely,
Yeah, little things make a big difference.
completely.
And for end, I see that your family missing you, so we will cut here. How you relax and how you uh, maintain a balance between work and personal life.
I didn't used to. I didn't used to, but now I have made changes. So, for example, I think there's this thing in England where if you're a coach who is, you're at the gym every night, then Saturday you're driving across England for a fight or a bout for your boxer. You're taking them sparring every Sunday, all this sort of stuff. There used to be this kind of thing, well, there still is, where it's like, wow, respect, big respect to him because he's looking after all these kids. He's giving back to the community. And I think that's wonderful and I think it's beautiful. But I think it shouldn't be at the expense of your family. And that took me a phone call from my wife. I was coaching for England up in York once, and I was driving back from York to England to Eastbourne, and that was about an 8-hour, 9-hour journey. That's a long journey, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Loads of traffic around London, so that made it like 11 hours. She called me and says, "What time are you home?" And I said, "Oh, there's traffic now. I'm going to be home." And she says, "You're not here. You're never here." And it hit me straight away. I went,
It's tough words.
Don't
Yeah,
be that. Don't be that coach. And my youngest, excuse me, my oldest was maybe 1 or 6 months old or something like that. And I went, I can't keep doing this. This is not priority. So so I've cut down a little bit around my Eastbourne, my volunteer stuff. I've become a lot more. You do that now. Can you do that for me? And I've
yeah.
delegated a lot more. So
Time
now I spend a
management.
lot of time with my family. That's why I was late today because lots of issues. Um, we're at a local park, and I just enjoy time with my wife, my 2 boys. Jonah brings me ice cream. So it's just spending time
Family
with the
first.
family. And before I didn't do that, it was like, I've got to be a good coach, got to be a good coach. But now, no, I've got to be a good father before I can be a good coach. And I think maybe sometimes we
Nice.
get that wrong, and I did get that wrong. But I'm hopefully readdressing that balance at the moment. Yeah. So thanks for asking that question. I think it's an important question.
Great. Yes. For end, where people can find you on social media, and I hope we must her again and talk about some other how is it them.
Sure. Well, wherever you look, so if you just type in the box gathering anywhere, so if you do it on Instagram, we've got Instagram, we have a private Facebook page. We do have WhatsApp as well, but we let people into WhatsApp who are members, some who are non-members. But if you go onto the website, www.theboxgathering.com that you might be able to see at the bottom of the screen now. There is a paid membership for that, of course. It's monthly or annual. There are some free things on there as well, so you can sign up or you can look and see some free information, which will give you a bit of a taster. But I like to think that if people message me like you have, that I'll have conversation with you. I was speaking to coaches recently from Denmark, Canada, and just having good conversations with people, which I love and enjoy doing because I learn so much from other coaches. So if anyone wants to get a hold of me, www.theboxgathering.com or get in contact with me through social media. That will be the way.
Great, Adam. Thank you very much for this. It's my honor to have you here, and I hope we're gonna call again and talk again about boxing.
Absolutely, I appreciate your invite. I've loved the conversation. It's great, and I think we need to have more conversations like this in sport, in martial arts, to help that understanding and bring the sport forward. So thanks very much for your invite, and thanks for being a member of the Box Gathering. We really appreciate it, mate.
Thank you. You motive me to upgrade my English so we can talking normally. But I understand you everything. But when I speaking it's harder to me, and this is out of my comfort zone. And one way, this is ecological dynamic approach for my English. So thank you very much for everything, and see you again.
Take care. Thanks very much. Have a great week.
Great week.